I'm thinking, which is a good job that I'm sat down. It's a wonder the room isn't full of smoke. I'm thinking, have I left anything out in this second selection of clips, my favourite clips from the course of 2025? There was the clips which made up over 200 videos again that I've had to go through, and it's easy to miss a particular minute or something particularly special. But I don't think I have. I could sit here and keep going through clip after clip for a number of days like I have done for both these videos. It takes a long time to select and go through all your video clips and then decide what to use and then to decide what kind of order to put them in. I don't particularly bother with the order, they just go in one after another. But we've got another hour's worth to go through, so once again, if you've got any sandwiches left from the last video, you're all right, but I'd recommend that you go and make some more and make a fresh flask of tea or coffee or your favourite beverage. And if you're cold, put the heating on or get a sleeping bag and enjoy the coming hour. There's some really nice bits and some bits that I actually forgot about, but at least that's one good thing about producing these videos. It brings back the memories and gets the old grey matter stirring and working again before we get into New Year's Eve and everything stops. But enjoy the coming hour. Well, I can see that it's been feeding. It's located on here. Unless it's moved, there are feeding signs here too. But that's where it was. I've not looked for the larvae yet. They do tend to wander a little bit from feeding area to feeding area and from feeding area to favoured resting position. So we'll see if we can locate it. It's here. So one of those species which almost lights up when the sun comes out on it. That metallic emerald green coloration. It's a bit more dull on the elytra, a bit more golden on this individual. They can appear quite bluish green. Either way, it's what I'd term a real stonker of a thing. If I put my hand at the back, you may well be able to see this spider a lot better. It's just the light in the spider here is located in the shade of a tree trunk, and yet it's a gloriously sunny day. But at least this allows you to see what an attractively marked spider this is. And it's only a small spider too. That abdomen is only about 5mm in length, and it's an unusually shaped abdomen too. If I can, I will try and get a sideways on view to show you, but the abdomen shape makes it distinctive, at least in Nottinghamshire spiders. Quite fidgety. on its web. And here's the young larva of a goat moth. This one's about 15 millimeters in length. I never dreamt that they venture around on the outside of the bark. I was very surprised to see this one, but then to see a second one, which is still visible, tucked in the crevice that it's just dropped into. Well, I find myself tucked along this little footpath. It's a footpath which allows you to access the former Calverton colliery. I've parked my car just 50 yards away. In fact, I can see it from where I'm sat. It's fenced on one side, and on the other side there are some mature or semi-mature hawthorns, the bottom of which are covered in the green lichen, the Praria incarna, and that's what I'm looking on for this moth. But it's the larval feeding signs that I'm looking for, and those larval feeding signs are a tube, but a small tube at that. I know it doesn't look much, and if you didn't know what you were looking for, you wouldn't give this a second glance or even a third glance, to be honest. The larva is pale, pretty nondescript and small. Say the moth itself is small. The forewings are black, and there are beautiful little silver lines or streaks running vertically down the wings when the moth is at rest. It looks a terrific little thing. But this is a terrific little thing because it's a species that I've always wanted to see. And at last we have it here in Nottinghamshire. I'm surprised actually that it's never been recorded in Nottinghamshire before. But it's also surprising just what can be in your local county. No, I'm not going in there with that 8-leg thing hanging off the wall. Told you it was big, but this tiny spider is as big as it will get. This is Unops domesticus. Somewhat lying in a ditch, which isn't the first time for me, and I can tell you this now, none of the times when I've been lying or sitting or falling in a ditch, it's not been through drink. Today it's to look at this beautiful little flower. It's a flower which, despite its name, tends to be forgotten, because this is forget-me-not. The thing I love about forget-me-not and its beautiful light powder blue flowers is the fact that it's such a simple flower. I love simplicity in my flowers, I must admit. And these don't get much simpler. 5 absolutely beautiful pale blue petals. There is a hint of white in one of these plants. But what a beautiful little plant it is. Most people want it in the gardens for a couple of years until it starts seeding all over. Then for some reason, despite its great beauty, they wish to eradicate it. Why? To have something that seeds so freely and yet produces such beautiful soft blooms is beyond me sometimes. It's a stunning little flower. And then right in the centre of that flower, it's white right at the base of the petals, and then a little dot of yellow. Absolutely beautiful, and certainly well worth lying in a ditch for. There's quite a lot here. It mixed in with the dandelions at Wellow Park. But it's such a beautiful flower, the way it comes through the vegetation. And then for the rest of the year it's completely inconspicuous. As I mentioned, it seeds very freely. So if you have this in your garden, be prepared to either put up with it or just don't have it in your garden if you don't like pulling these out. I used to have them in my garden at home, and I will have to get some again because I do miss it. But I think I also associate this with childhood and visiting my grandparents in Lamley in Nottinghamshire when I was but a wee young thing then. And everybody's garden had forget-me-not in it. Myosotis, if you want the scientific name. Otherwise you can just call it stunningly beautiful, because that's what it is. And yet again, Mother Nature to me proves that simple is best. No fuss, no frills, just a beautiful pure flower. Rather like myself, really. I never would have dreamt of getting this close. Absolutely fabulous thing. And because it's so windy, I'm even able to hold this leaf in place. Absolutely stunning. Beautiful butterflies, they really are. But it's the opportunities like this when you can get close to a particular individual of a species. That's what makes it all worthwhile as far as I'm concerned. Fleeting glimpses are all very nice and that, and just standing away from them, but it's nice when you get the chance to do this. Absolutely amazing. What a butterfly Mother Nature's created here. One of the most beautiful that we have. Well, now you can see that fabulous mature female from above, and you can see how the yellow coloration is more intense. Stunningly beautiful spiders, they really are. And those attenuated legs, beautifully striped. But it's the abdomen that's the striking aspect of this spider. Quite oval shaped, quite unusual really in terms of UK spiders. And you would think with the coloration being as it is that it would be a very easy thing to find, but I can assure you if you go looking for these in grass or in Juncus like this, they're not easy at all. Not until you've got your eye in and you know exactly what you're looking for. But I'm surprised at the size difference between the 5 that are here. But what a beautiful spider. The majority of these ladybirds are all going, well, technically northeast, but it's no big migration. It's all just been triggered off because of the warmth of the sun, I'm sure of it. But I've never seen anything like this at all. See? You can see the harlequins landing on me. I don't know how many I've got on me. But I've only got a fraction on me compared to what's flying around. Another one just crashed into my head. Hope it survives. This is incredible. So Dillis and I did a lot of work on ladybirds, counting how many went up people's noses, but in all seriousness, we did lots of counting of ladybirds and surveys over the years, for a number of years. Look at this lot. But we never saw anything like this at all. I'm tempted to go and fetch the moth trapping sheet from the boot of the car, because I know if I stick it on that hedge at the top there, it will be full of these. Oh, like my head and my shirt. I thought we'd have one close look. It is dead, you're quite safe. Well, I'm quite safe. But you have to admire these truly marvellous insects. A lot of you will be saying, no, we don't have to admire them at all, but without these kind of predatory insects and invertebrates that do such a huge amount of good for, well, any habitat, including gardens. Nothing in nature is created just to be there. It's created for a purpose, and while everybody loves bumblebees, even though they can sting as much as these, everybody hates wasps and hornets. And of course now everyone's got this thing about the Asian hornet. This is the European hornet, Vespa crabro. The Asian hornet, not yet in Nottinghamshire, is slightly smaller than this and is mostly black with a bit of golden yellow on it. It looks a beautiful thing. A lot of people won't thank me for saying that. But what an insect. And look at that for a face. Look at those eyes. Almost looks as though it's got ear pods in, except these aren't so daft as ear pods. But what a super thing, look. And of course, on top, between the eyes, there's the ocelli, which are false eyes. Well, technically false eyes, but isn't that just a fabulous insect? Well, the other night at Missing Car, I ended the session with a handful of poplar hawk moths. Bit more of a selection this evening, with poplar hawk moth here, eyed hawk moth here, elephant hawk moth here, and another eyed hawk moth. 2 eyed hawk moths. Who'd have thought that as we approach August? I certainly didn't. I didn't expect this elephant hawk moth, because I'd considered looking on some willow herb as I drive home for the larvae of elephant hawk moth. But 3 fabulous moths, 2 fabulous moths, 3 if you include the one that's hiding behind. But what a session it's been too. Absolutely brilliant. Highlight without a doubt is Vestal, and I could sit here for another hour or so, but I'm happy enough with the time spent catching moths that I've had, and by the time I've packed everything up, unlocked and unlocked the gate, it'll be past my bedtime and I need my beauty sleep. I won't be getting up till about September. Oil beetles were discovered here on Budbean 2011 by Adrian Dutton and his wife. Dillis and I monitored this beetle every year, coming at least once or twice to monitor numbers. Had some really good counts years ago, and the beetle did drop in numbers There are records now from elsewhere on Budby, but from what I've seen, this western end is still the best bet to see this marvellous beetle. You know, when you've looked for something for years, never found it, and then you find it and you get that feeling of elation. Well, I've got a feeling of elation because I finally found Philonistis xenia at the 3rd year of looking. It always means more the longer it takes you to find it. It's quite amazing the difference a month can make. A month ago, this was a carpet of bluebells and the woodland was more open to the sunshine. Now the canopy is leafed up and the canopy is darker. It casts a shade over the woodland floor. Something that many people won't like, but it's what beech trees do. Beech trees always provide a lot of shade. That's why nothing grows under them really, or at least struggles to grow under beech trees. I love it, I must admit. Then again, I'm an awkward customer, I suppose. But Lownwood here isn't all beech, it's just one area of beech woodland, and you're looking at the edge of that area of beech woodland where the sunshine is coming through the trees. It creates a fabulous picture, a wonderful effect. Woodlands are probably photographed more during the bluebell flowering period than after it. This is almost like after the party, so to speak. But just look at that light and the sound too. An assortment of bird calls, including blackbird, and there's bits and bobs of wren and all sorts of species, blackcaps too, robins. But I was struck just walking into Lownwood here by the sunlight coming through the trees. It just looked beautiful. Well, I don't want to leave these 2 butterflies right at the side of the path, so I'm going to move them into a bit more cover, somewhere tucked out of the way a little bit. There they can fly when they want to fly. Doesn't seem as though they want to be honest. It's a cracking thing. Let's look at that. What a wonderful thing. I've waited so long to get a view of a male purple emperor. I will treasure this moment and these views for as long as I live. And here she is, just clinging to that old dead leaf. If I move the light away, you can see her glowing. Looks a decent sized female. Magical little things, these. They're only about maybe an inch long, some just over, some smaller. I've had some tiny females at times. At last we've got one, but this seems a very poor year. Well, it is a poor year so far. I'm hoping that it picks up. But it's entirely plausible. We used to talk years ago that we've got to have a good year or a poor year some years. We didn't really get a poor year. But I can't see this being a late season with a late peak in July, or not with such an early start. Typically, seasons last pretty much the same length of time. I say it's a gradual build-up and a gradual decline. Let's hope that for some reason, number 5 of the year here is going to be one of many. This looks a fairly unremarkable location, just an ordinary country lane here in Nottinghamshire. Well, I'm not far from the villages of Kersal and Cornton. You could include Neasall in that too, sort of almost in the middle of nowhere. But this scene is a scene of a quite remarkable record, when only yesterday a larval web of small egger was found nearby to this location. In fact, as I stand here, they were found over there about a quarter of a mile or so away. And so today I've decided to have a look around this area. This is the first time that small egger has been found anywhere near here at all. It's always been a Trent Valley species in Nottinghamshire, and to have it a good number of miles away and further into Nottinghamshire is a quite remarkable discovery. In terms of moths, it's probably going to be the best discovery this year. But the lady that found these small eggers yesterday also had them at another location at Curtin, and that was in 2024. Now, I've covered and looked for small egger for a number of years, having to go to Sutton-on-Trent in order to try and find the larval webs. I don't have to do that, at least not today, because I've toddled up here in the car, which you can see in the background there. I've walked 200 yards down that lane and I found another batch of small egger caterpillars. Quite remarkable for a moth which is in national decline. A few weeks ago I caught the moth of my dreams. But every hobby or interest often has something like that. There's one particular thing that eludes you and you just can't wait to see it. I didn't expect to see Palpita vitrialis, a beautiful pure white moth with a chestnut and go faster stripe along its leading edge of the wings and across its face too, almost bandit-like. And I was stunned when I walked around the other side of the trap on that night, and there on the sheet was Palpita vitrialis. It was hastily potted, no chance on taking any video. I wanted it in a pot, and that was the view that I gave to camera that particular night. I brought it home with me with the idea of taking photographs the next day. And overnight it had been busy. It plastered the inside of the pot with eggs. I didn't realise that it was a female. But then all of a sudden I'd had the moth of my dreams a few hours before, and now I'd got the chance to rear that moth. And rear it I've done. I've had quite a few hatch eventually, and here's 4 more. See, just there, and 1 at the top, and no doubt more will come out of here sometime today. Well, this bit of mortar here is probably the most densely populated by these workers. Clearly there must be a number of colonies all using the same pathways and trackways. Colonies obviously bud off each other. This is the only bit halfway or within the wall where there seems to be something of an entrance, but in all probability there are dozens of entrances here that Tapinoma magnum is using. This is an enormous colony, and it covers a very large area, and you can see why this beetle derives its name. It's an absolutely fabulous thing. I love chestnut coloured beetles for some reason. What a beautiful thing. Unlike no other ladybird that we have here in Nottinghamshire and in the UK, as far as I'm aware. I'm surprised that it spends so long at each flower. Many don't. Many, especially Rupila maculata and others, will flit regularly from flower to flower or crawl from flower to flower. This has been on another bramble flower. I dare say it will soon move on here because there's only this one flower out on this particular head of bramble. But it's a fabulous thing, it really is. It's beautiful longhorn, this. Well, there's lots of butterflies around. I've not seen this patch of meadowland here at Red Hill with so many butterflies in it, and they all seem to be meadow browns. As I've said, I've not seen this number of meadow browns for many years, decades. And it's surprising people on Facebook will report hundreds of gatekeepers or something. Gatekeepers I'm not seeing particularly numbers out of the the usual, but meadow browns here at Red Hill, certainly there's a lot. One thing that's not about at the moment, not in numbers, are skippers, small skippers and Essex skipper. Large skipper is never one for being found in numbers, but whites are the big thing at the moment, large whites. It's a fabulous year for large whites, and I know anyone who grows cabbages will bemoan the fact there's a lot of large whites, but when you've been used to not seeing that many whites in the last few years, it's still nice to see them making a comeback, whether or not they do eat your cabbages. It's just nice to see plenty of butterflies. No sign of anything moving through yet. Lots of activity, but nothing of any discernible direction. And I think if there is going to be any movement, it's going to be large whites. This is a view that they don't give or allow all that often. Freshly out of the pupa this morning. Probably around first light, or just after. They don't look so much really when they're at rest, like this. Both antennae are now out. There's every chance this will just go up and off with very little vibration of the wings. They really don't know when to stop, you know. But there again, I suppose when you've got a limited lifespan, you have to make the most of every opportunity. Ask a teenager. But this very common beetle, we often used to call or refer to them as bloodsuckers, and that was purely because of the orange coloration. We thought that they sucked your blood, but they don't. These are soldier beetles, Cantharidae, and they will spend all of their time, when not having sex, eating nectar and pollen from various flower heads, but certainly creeping thistle is one of their favourites. Looks like they've had enough. And here's the egg, tucked in at the base of the main bud there on that leaf scar. It's that sort of little dirty cream coloured, almost like a sea urchin. They are beautifully sculptured eggs. Quite often they're tucked down into a cluster of buds. This one is nice and open, and for something that is only a millimetre across, they are surprisingly easy to find. It's not like looking for a needle in a haystack. They do stand out, as you can see with that one. The other one is here. It's there, look. At the base of a bud, but on an old leaf scar. So we have two eggs, as you can see there, laid within a foot. And what female purple hair streaks do, like all the hair streaks, they walk around the foliage looking for somewhere suitable to lay. And I dare say that these were laid within a few minutes or so of each other. I think, like most people, every now and again you feel a need to get away from everything and everybody. And this is the kind of place where I like to get away from everything and everybody every once in a while. This is Wellow Park, but this isn't the well-worn trackways in Wellow Park, although Wellow is a very quiet woodland anyway. I like the tracks trod by deer and badger and foxes that crisscross throughout Wellow Park. They're much quieter. They're much more tucked away, often in deep coppiced woodland such as this. Wellow Park's really coming alive, like most of the UK's woodlands, and certainly here in Nottinghamshire. It's a slow start to spring, and some people are already remarking that certain species are in short supply. It's far too early to say yet, at least in Nottinghamshire it is. We have to remember that we've had a much cooler, or in some parts colder, winter than what we've had for many a year. Almost normal temperatures probably when you average them out, and here in Nottinghamshire we've not had so much rain, nowhere near as much as the west coast, but then again you expect it on the west coast and up in Scotland, here in the UK. And even though it's a nice sunny day, it's a beautiful day today, you need to be in the sunshine, in the full sun, and somewhere sheltered to feel the warmth. If you're in somewhere like this or in the shade, that still feels on the cool side. But this is the kind of spring that we used to have many years ago. You never used to see a butterfly much before the end of March, not that long ago. How we've got used to seeing our first butterfly probably in late February, and usually a red admiral nowadays. That's how things have changed, but we've just gone back a little bit for this year. May well go very mild again in future winters and springs. So although you may not have seen many butterflies up to yet, they are about. Commas are about in good numbers this year, and brimstones too. Both in very good numbers, and small tortoiseshell look as though they're on the way back, but it is too early to tell. Not a bad backdrop, is it? Haven't seen a soul today, which is fine by me. But I've also never seen a purple emperor larva on this particular salix. This is Salix cinerea or cineriana. I can never remember which. I think it's cinerea, and it's a more narrow-leaved salix rather than the sort of tough oval leaves of Salix caprea. And I'd love to find an L3 purple emperor larva on here. To overwinter, the buds aren't big enough on cinerea, so they're going to overwinter in the joints. But in order for me to find one in those joints, I need to find me a dangly leaf. Well, here is the amazing dotted chestnut, a moth, one of those moths that I've dreamt of catching for several years now. First appeared back in Nottinghamshire after a gap of over 100 years in 2022, and say, I'm sure there has been another record, and I'm sure it's from the very north of the county. But this is a moth which is obviously breeding here. It must be breeding here, with a record from just a couple of 100 yards away from Eaton Wood, across the road from here at Gamston Wood. So what a moth! What an absolutely fabulous moth. It's unlike anything else, really. I know it's got chestnut in the name, but it's not even like a chestnut. Beautifully marked. It's calmed down straight away. I'm absolutely over the moon to be looking at this and to be talking about this moth. One of a number of moths which has made great strides again in the last few years. Long may it continue, and long may it keep turning up in Nottinghamshire. And that's the typical coloration of a more recently laid egg. They gradually darken a little bit day by day, but they are obvious. They are easy to see just by careful searching, a bit of effort. And they are very easy to rear as a caterpillar. Very, very easy. No problems rearing these larvae at all. It's just a shame they don't have two broods, but that's the egg that many people are after. What I was actually looking at was one of these. I couldn't believe it at the time, because this is the fabulously large larva of the bedstraw hawk moth in Nottinghamshire, a very rare occasional migrant. There is reason to believe that this moth is breeding, or has bred recently, in Nottinghamshire, in the Sherwood Pines area. And about this time last year, I went looking for one of these in Sherwood Pines, the old Clipston Forest, and couldn't find any sign. I also went the other day and couldn't find any sign again. But there again, like here at Clipston Old Quarter, Rosebay willow herb seems to have died out at Sherwood Pines. But 21 years ago, when my eyes were fixed on this caterpillar, I couldn't believe it. It was the thing of dreams, it really was. Any migrant hawk moth well, when I was a lad, I didn't think occurred anywhere near Nottinghamshire, but over the years, as I learnt more and read more, I realised that occasionally they do. And this was my first record of the moth in Nottinghamshire. I was quite fortunate because 2 years later, in 2006, I saw and found an adult nectarinate valerian at Eakring one late evening. So I've been more fortunate than many in Nottinghamshire to have seen one of these in the first place and to see two. This one is one that I've recently bought. It took a year to get to me. Not that it's walked, of course, but it's just that the supply of bedstraw hawk moths, for some reason, despite it being more common of the likes of spurred, striped and silver striped hawk moths, has always been more difficult to get as livestock. But recently, I've just been able to procure a few, and here we are, bringing back the days of 21 years ago. The little yellow face looking at us from the edge of the tree. You'll be seeing lots of little yellow faces. The worker comes into the nest. Plenty of other worker hornets coming in too. But this scene is about to change. Still generally quite peaceful. But now the amount of activity starts to change. The camera becomes a stronger focus of attention. And now there's more little yellow faces all lined up. Word is now getting about within that colony that they're not happy with the camera. More workers start to emerge from the nest. The amount of hornets flying around the nest now, as more workers flood out, and this is where it starts to get interesting, and it really kicks off at this point. Just watch the number of hornets coming out of the nest. More and more pour out. Lots of workers around the camera, and as soon as I pulled the camera away, within a few minutes it all settled down again. When you look at this gorse today, it took me a while to make sure that I'd got the right gorse, but this is definitely it. And there isn't a single gorse mite on it. I'm quite astounded, to be honest, but I'm very pleased that it survived. Many people seem to think that if you get a huge infestation of something like gorse mites, or in the case of earlier this year, the webs of both spindle ermine and bird cherry ermine defoliating trees, that those trees and gorse bushes, in the instance of gorse mite, are doomed. They aren't. Not everything that's described as invasive will do a great deal of damage. And certainly, I think many people thought that this gorse would have had it. Far from it. It's done okay. When you think about it, anything that's invasive and preys on a plant, it's not really in that species' interest to completely eradicate the plant. It's like having a pantry full of food and then bricking the door up. You wouldn't do it. Well, earlier in the spring, I finally had an end to one of my quests to find a particular species. In the end, it wasn't me that found it. It was Nick and Samantha Brownlee. And that quest was for a ladybird, the striped ladybird, a quite beautiful species. And it was so nice to see striped ladybird again. But I still had another quest. A quest with an Egyptian connection. That Egyptian connection is in the name of the ladybird I also wanted to see again after many years of not seeing it. And it's the hieroglyphic ladybird. And you're looking at it. And once again, you're looking at it courtesy of Nick and Samantha Brownlee. It's always a good sky here at Besthorpe. Tonight is probably the best yet. I'm still new to trapping here, and I must admit, this, along with missing car, really gives us a buzz early in the day, knowing I'm coming here. Just look at this for a fantastic construction. This is the cocoon of a small micro moth called Lionesia clerkella. Incredibly common. It mines the leaves with a sinuous gallery mine on upteen species. But it's not very often you see the result of the caterpillar's pupation efforts and the extremes that it goes to just to house the chrysalis. What's remarkable about it is, apart from the great lengths and intricate construction process, is that this was just done by a caterpillar measuring no more than about 4, possibly 5 millimeters in length. The chrysalis is housed in that bit just there, that's a suspended, almost crib-like construction. But it's just ingenious, the methods that this caterpillar goes to in order to pupate. So many just come out of the leaf mine and drop to the ground and pupate in a silken cocoon within the leaf litter. This doesn't. This goes to such extraordinary lengths. And it is remarkable. The caterpillar obviously has to find the right part of the leaf, where the leaf is being pulled over a little bit, but then it's pulled over even more because of those 2 long strands of silk, which are made up of several strands of silk, as you can see. That helps to pull the leaf over and creates a space for the caterpillar then to create its cocoon in which it pupates. I would love to see the caterpillar doing this process, because the actual silken cocoon which is housing the pupa is itself suspended by about 3 or 4 short strands of silk. The cocoon isn't touching any part of the leaf at all. It's just remarkable. I'm in one of my favourite habitats. You tend not to see many naturalists or entomologists in this kind of habitat. And yet, while everybody just assumes that cemeteries are full of death and misery and doom and gloom and past lives, well, to a degree they are, but they're also hosts to a whole range of life, and I'd go so far as to say that there's far more life in any cemetery or churchyard than there is death and misery. For an entomologist, churchyards and cemeteries are absolutely wonderful places to come and spend an hour just looking on the gravestones, because there's a whole range of species, and if you get a mild late autumn day like today, you can be occupied for several hours. There's much to see if you look carefully, and sometimes on the likes of these gravestones behind me, they can be almost like the equivalent of the Serengeti, but in miniature. There's life and death and life at risk on a lot of these gravestones if you just look for them. And bear in mind that they're in miniature. It's a miniature world, but that miniature world can be equally as tough, if not tougher, than our world. I should have brought a cup of tea down with me. I'm trapping at the top there, as you can see. It's been a lovely sort of 20 minutes or so. I've just got everything set up and I've been watching the sunset. It's been a beautiful sunset, it really has. When I get nights like this, it really, well, it just puts everything into perspective. It makes you realise why you love doing what you do, and I absolutely love moth trapping, I must admit. I don't think there's anything I love more than getting out on a night time or on a beautiful evening like this, running the trap for a couple of hours or so, seeing what turns up, getting lots of enjoyment out of it, lots of enjoyment providing the county with yet more records. It's a fabulous thing to do, to be out on an evening like this. This is the kind of evening you want late December, early January, when you're longing for the nighttime temperature to be above 8 degrees centigrade. I can assure you it's a little bit above 8 degrees centigrade. But I do like this sort of waiting in readiness part of the evening, where those insects and birds that have been active during the day are now starting to go quiet and are starting to roost for the evening and night, and the night time those nocturnal wanderers and insects are just coming out to play. Absolutely beautiful. And a beautiful sky too. Would you look at that? Well, another successful release. That's 4 out of 5. One more to go.